9 on Radio Row here in Atlanta at SEC Media Days 2025. Ryan Lavoie and Brooks Childress with you here today. And we are now pleased to be joined by Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart. Tony, the time is greatly appreciated. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's can't believe it's time for another SEC Media Days. It seemed like we were just here not too long ago, but that means that football season's coming. And after a year of reading about the NIL and transfer portal, I'm ready to see some games.
Yes, absolutely. We will probably save those questions for another time and talk football with you today. But let's start with the Dodd Trophy, something that's very important to you. And, again, we've seen a great list, again, Hall of Fame caliber coaches win it throughout the years. Just what makes the Dodd Trophy so special?
It has been a neat experience. I've been on the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Board of Directors for about 15 years now, and we present the Dodd Trophy. And what makes this award different? There are a lot of great Coach of the Year awards. So many of them. The Dodd Trophy is different in this respect. We believe in the total person. Scholarship, leadership, and integrity are the pillars of the Dodd Trophy. And I think the best example I can give you, last year, a lot of great coaches of the year did an incredible job. We picked Marcus Freeman, the head football coach at Notre Dame, not only based on their season, but based on what they've done academically, what they've done from a community service standpoint. And so, and the other thing that makes it different is that we go to the campus of the winner and present the trophy to him and his staff with an event on campus. And we had a wonderful trip to Notre Dame. So it's been the fact that it weighs not only winning, you got to win, okay, but you also want to do what you should do in terms of scholarship, leadership, and integrity.
Absolutely, and a great way to kind of sort through some of the great seasons. As you mentioned, a lot of guys having great seasons. Unfortunately, last year was not a great season for Hugh Freeze and for Auburn football. A lot of missed opportunities, I think we would characterize it. The Oklahoma game coming to mind as a 2-score blown lead. What does Auburn need to do here in 2025 to change some of these close loss results?
Well, one of the things they've done, as you guys follow this much better than I do, but they've recruited well, a couple of top 10 recruiting classes to build on. And somebody asked me about Auburn's, what does Auburn need to do? I said they need to recruit more players. Because it's kind of funny. I learned not too long ago the team with the best players usually wins. And they need to improve their roster. They need to get good, consistent play out of the quarterback position. And I think they will. Now, is Auburn's going to be better. Now, does better define better? Is that getting to the 8-9 win plateau? Is that happen this year? Could. And so I'm anxious to kind of see how Auburn's season unfolds.
I want to go back to the Dodd Trophy for just a moment. You kind of ran through talking about how it's not just winning; it's other aspects of what the coach does. I was looking through the list, and you look at that award, and like you said, you're not just picking the national championship coach. No. You're not just picking who wins everything. Because you go back these last few years. You mentioned Marcus Freeman last year, Mike Norvell the year before. Then you go down to some group of 5 schools with Willie Fritz at Tulane, Luke Fickell when he was at Cincinnati. I talk a little bit more about that. That you don't, like you said, you don't prioritize just winning. It's kind of the all-encompassing aspects.
You mentioned Willie Fritz at Tulane. He's the perfect example. They just an incredible record academically, obviously, to put Tulane in that situation, to have that success. We go to Tulane to present the award to Coach Fritz. When we arrived, they have a luxury box, a luxury thing at the stadium, so that's where it was held. We drove up to the stadium at Tulane. The entire Tulane team wearing their game jerseys was there to greet us. That just doesn't happen that much. And if you've ever met Willie Fritz, he is a very impressive guy. He talked about his staff, not only his staff but the athletic staff, and he got all those folks up there and named every single person on that staff, knew them all, and what they did. So it's that kind of situation that you're looking for when we're picking a Bobby Dodd, the Dodd Trophy, Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year.
Looking around the SEC this year, obviously we've seen a pretty consistent top tier of teams when you're looking at schools like Georgia and Alabama, although Alabama had by their standards, a disappointing year last year.
Horrible win.
Right.
Nine wins.
So when we look at the top league, we look at Georgia, Texas, throwing in Alabama. Just how do you kind of go about sorting through those schools at the top?
Well, I think it's right now. I think Texas and Georgia are sort of bracketed right there together at the top. Certainly from a talent standpoint, if Georgia gets to play out of Gunnar Stockton at quarterback that they hope to get, I think they will be fine. But I think Alabama's going to bounce back. You simply were not going to. That was not going to be a smooth transition. I don't care who you are, and I think with getting Ryan Grubb back on his staff as the offensive coordinator, I was told, I was on campus and they said you can't underestimate how big of a deal that is. And does Ty Simpson, 4 years in the program, does he get it done? So I think when you look at it, I think it's Texas and Georgia bracket. I think Alabama is in the next line. I like LSU. Matter of fact, I like LSU a lot. Now, I don't feel good enough to beat Texas or Georgia, but I like what he's done with that roster because they were great. They're going to be great on offense. Nussmeier's an NFL quarterback. The only question I have, will they improve a defense, was just absolutely awful last year. And he just talking to him in Destin, he feels real. He said this is the best roster he's had. I said, wait a minute. This is the best roster you've had as in ever? He said, yes. So there you go.
Year one of the 12-team playoff is come and gone. What were your impressions of the first year of it?
Absolutely loved it. Thought it was great. Now, the seating was messed up, and they fixed that. That was just a mistake. But the idea, here's what I like. You go to the Orange Bowl and you win, and Holly Rowe interviews you, and then that's it. You're done. Season's over. No, now if you win the Orange Bowl, you get to play again. And I just thought that was really really neat. Now, we're going to 16, guys. I'm just telling you, we're going. If we can somehow get the Big Ten to get them to come out of the wilderness and get them straightened out, we will go to 16 teams, and that to me will be a whole lot of fun.
So when we're looking at in terms of playoffs and teams trying to make it in, and when we go to 16 schools, there's going to be, again, a lot of SEC involvement, obviously. Do you think that changes the mindset of teams that maybe are in the middle of the conference that are traditionally maybe fine with 7-8 wins? Obviously, you always have lofty goals, and then say, well, actually, we could get that one more. We could get up to 9-3 and be a top 16 team. That's the new bar. Do you think it changes the bar for some programs?
Well, it changes the bar in this regard because there's a lot of coaches who don't want to go to 9 games, who don't want to go to, because as one coach told me, he says, we have a lot of coaches in this league who know how to count to 6. Okay. And but yeah, it does. And think about it is at 16 teams, South Carolina's in last year. Heck, Alabama's in last year. Okay. And so I think that is the way you got to sell it, is the opportunity. And if you go to the 5-11 model that they're talking about, the SEC could have gotten 6 teams in last year. And I think November becomes a lot of fun when there are a lot of schools that have got a chance.
I remember that we've always had some of the detractors of expanding the playoff felt like the regular season would matter less, but it turns out it's mattered a whole lot more down the line. So when we're thinking about teams that are thinking about, do we want to play 9 SEC games? Do we want to try to influence the league to do that? Do we want to move to 8? One thing that's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle, I feel like some at the national level, is the SEC has a lot of proud and historic rivalries. And obviously Auburn has a couple of those, more than a couple of those. Where are you at in terms of 8 versus 9 games and trying to protect as much of that as we can?
I am absolutely for going for 9 SEC games. And here's why. My favorite game has always been Georgia versus Auburn. It dates back, first game in 1892 in Piedmont Park in Georgia. It's the longest continuous rivalry in the Deep South, and I don't want to lose playing that. I don't want to play that every year. I want to play it every year, not every other year. And so I think that now I've heard Commissioner Sankey say, well, we're going to protect Georgia Auburn. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay. But I think those secondary rivalries are so darn important. If you go to 9, here's the other thing: you go to 9, and the way the schedule will be set up, in 2 years you will play everybody in the conference. In 4 years you'll play everybody in the conference, home and away. And I think that's a really big deal. If you come to an SEC school and stay 4 years, you should play in every venue on the SEC. I think you owe that to the players.
We're at SEC Media Days. There's going to be a lot of coaches coming through here speaking throughout the week. In your opinion, and I don't want to bring the mood down, but in your opinion, which of those coaches is most likely not to be here next year?
Well, let's put it this way. This is a big year for the Arkansas coach. Okay, this is a big year for Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I think those guys need to show some improvement. Mark Stoops has done such a really good job at Kentucky for what he started with. So I hope that turns out. Brent Venables, 6 and 7, yeah, particularly with their brother Texas doing so well. I think that's an issue. Although I think Oklahoma will be improved. So I think those guys. Sam Pittman has done a tremendous job, but you can't go 8-4, and you can't go 8-4 2 years in a row. So they've got Bobby Petrino, who's done an incredible job there with that offense. So we'll see how that pans out. But I like Sam Pittman a lot, but you can't go 4-8 again.
And then we'll finish with along those lines. Again, no coaches lost their job in the SEC last year, and it felt just kind of nationwide that some pass or fails that everyone kind of stayed with their guy if they can kind of reason it. Is that a product of the new? I know I said I wouldn't talk much about it, but is this the product of the new revenue sharing and people being a little tighter with their money? Or so do we expect this theme to continue, or was that just kind of a one-off deal where business as usual in the coaching carousel?
They're going to go, as you just said, they're going to try to, if it doesn't go well, just give me one more year. Give me one more year. I can save a lot of money in that 1 year and try to use it. I think that will be a good reason to keep a guy on like that. Absolutely. Because you're not going to, we're not going to see any Jimbo Fisher contracts anymore. Okay. That's a thing of the past. And so I think that's so many, now that you're paying the players, now that you got to generate all this revenue, all of a sudden these folks they got a $20.5 million item in their budget that wasn't there 2 years ago. And so, yeah, I think it's all going to be a factor of money.
He is Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, joining us today on the program. Tony, we've certainly appreciated the time, and we look forward to following the league again in another eventful 2025.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Tony Barnhart joining us today on Sports Call.